How's it going, everyone? The Trout91 here, back for the Sassuolo playthrough. I know it has been a long time since you last saw my face and a video from this series, but we're back here today. Now, since we last met, it was a live stream that you might have seen previously. For those of you who missed it, there was a live stream, and I'll link it in the description down below and in a card in the top right-hand corner. But we had a bit of a mixed bag of time. So obviously at the start of the season, we had a good run. Everything was going well. We were undefeated. We came into the live stream and we lost quite a few games that we weren't expected to lose. Now, since then, I've been so busy with work and general life that I've not had the time to sit down and live stream or record an episode. So when I've actually had time to sit down and play games, I've kind of just enjoyed playing the games rather than streaming or recording a video. But I feel like I'm so overdue, and I have been dipping into the Sassuolo playthrough. Also, the times that I have been playing it have been like late at night or in a time where I've not been able to live stream or generally record gameplay. There've been little bits of gameplay here and there. Now I feel like it's time to give you an update on what's going on. So we're currently third in the table. Atalanta are still in second place. I don't know what they've been doing, but they are absolutely on a mad one this season. They are not giving anything, and they don't have an amazing team. They are a pace merchant team. That's all I can describe them as, is they have a team full of very pacey players. So Juventus very much clear at the top of the table. They are ahead of us by 11 points at this stage of the competition. We are just over the halfway mark at this point in time. We are being chased down by Inter Milan, who surprisingly are in 4th place. Roma, who are in 5th, who have improved on last season, but are still not quite hitting where you'd expect them to be. And AC Milan also bringing up the tail end, and along with Napoli, who have... AC Milan drawing a lot of games, and Napoli uncharacteristically losing a lot of games. So we can take a look at the stats. Duvan Zapata, Duvan Zapata, the Zapatering Ram, as I like to call him. It sounds a lot better in my head than it does actually out loud. But 14 goals so far in the season. Lorenzo Pellegrini with the highest average rating. Matteo Politano with 13 assists. Francesco Magnanelli with the best pass completion. Duvan Zapata with 3 Player of the Match awards. Peluso with the most yellow cards. 16 yellow cards already. That's almost a yellow card a game. And Dusan Basta with the most red cards. 2 red cards to his name. Now, I did say that my fullbacks were something I was worried about going into the season. I think for the first quarter, they proved to be good enough, and now I'm starting to have doubts about them getting into the halfway point. They are just very much a liability with the amount of times they get yellow carded or get a red card in this situation. And you can see down here, we have got the most yellow cards in the entire league and the second highest red cards. Now, I feel like we're actually more potent in front of goal, yet we've only got the 7th highest goals in the competition, 26 overall. So let's head into the schedule. Obviously, last time out, you saw us play against, I believe, Frosinone, who we managed to win 1-0, and it was Domenico Berardi who got the goal there. Our man who's on loan at Frosinone at the moment, Claude Abjpong, got sent off. Since then, we've played quite a few games. I think, how many games? 15 games have passed since then. So now, since we last left off, we continued what was a bit of a bad run of form. Maybe it's best I bring up the previous games up until that point. So we were having a lot of losses, games that we arguably shouldn't have lost. Inter Milan is always going to be a difficult one. We weren't great in that game, but I can't even pronounce this team that we played in the Europa League that we somehow lost 4-1 to. It was never a 4-1 game. We also lost to Genoa 1-0, and Juventus managed to beat us 1-0, which I wasn't particularly happy about. So it hasn't been the best of the times. But since then, we've gone an undefeated run of... We've gone 13 games without defeat so far. And I have to say that I haven't made any drastic changes to the actual team and the lineup and the formations, but there have been some subtle things that I've changed that seem to have helped us greatly. So before we actually get into the overall nooks and crannies of the games themselves, but this is kind of what I've done. So as far as the team's concerned, I've started bringing in Sensi into the midfield again. Obviously, I dropped him out because he wasn't really a guy... He for some reason, he doesn't have the highest ability rating at current, despite the fact that I think he's very good and he plays very well when he is on the pitch. And I played him throughout most of last season. Bringing him in certainly gives us a little bit more control in that midfield area, despite still only being 2.5 stars, which is funny because if you actually go on his rating when the coaches tell you about his progress. He gets like 3.5-star, 3-star abilities. Bringing him in, dropping Duncan to that defensive midfield spot, playing Pellegrini as the box-to-box seems to work. Politano as the attacking winger. Berardi as the inside forward on the attack. Zapata starting up front, and pretty much the same back line. Willy Caballero isn't really my starting keeper. I'm not sure why that is. Lucas Fabianski is there. I think I bring in Willy Caballero every now and then. I bring in Willy Caballero to give Fabianski a rest. There was 1 or 2 times I brought him on because I wasn't happy with Fabianski's performance, and I haven't actually been over the moon about his performance in general. I keep forgetting to swap him out, man. Like, I always forget that he's sitting in goal, and I get into a game and I go, oh, god damn it, Caballero's in goal. But, like, just putting Peluso on, like, defensive duties, putting Basta on support, seems to work out. I think as far as the instructions go, what I've been playing for a large majority of the games was I'd actually put the defensive line on normal like this, switching to balance because I think playing with such a wide stance is only really useful as far as defending goes for my team. Once I've switched to balance, we seem to be connecting our wingers and Zapata together a lot more, playing at a higher tempo, playing more direct, and playing on the counter attack actually works. So we're sticking men behind the ball and we're hitting them very quickly because we are fast, we're good at dribbling, and we're very good once we've caught people out. We're like suckering them in and pushing forward, and that's actually worked out so well for us in the first halves of a match. We've gone through and actually scored some very early goals, which is something that I think we weren't doing in the first season. And I've also stopped giving them specific instructions on how to actually attack in the final third. I've taken off hit early crosses. I've just let them go for it, and it seems to really work out for them. We're scoring a lot more often than we would. We're scoring from all sorts of different opportunities. Also just playing on fluid, getting more men forward if we can once we are on that counter attack seems to help out massively. In the past few games, like some of the tougher games, I have dropped slightly deeper against, for example, Atalanta we actually played, where they are so pacey that dropping back has actually helped us out. We do have generally a slow defense, like Peluso is sitting on 14 pace, which is pretty decent, but his agility is not great. Leandro Castan sitting on 13 pace, but again, his acceleration and agility are not fantastic. How do you say it? Zukanovic, something like that. Or again, 13 pace, but acceleration and agility let him down. And Basta, who is okay when it comes to pace, but his acceleration again lets him down. I have started bringing on like Nicholas Frey quite regularly just to fill out the spots, although again he's not very fast. But I've also brought on Paul Lirola at right back, who still has a fantastic potential, and he's coming along very nicely. Some great technical stats and very quick as well. So in general, we're just starting to hit people on the counter attack, and our midfield trio like Pellegrini, Sensi, and Duncan aren't actually contributing to as many goals or assists this year, which is not the end of the world when you consider. You look at the front three. Berardi's managed to bag himself 10 goals and 5 assists. I said I wanted to see him have a big season this year, and that's exactly what he's done. Matteo Politano hasn't scored yet, funnily enough. 20 games in, I don't even think he's scored in the Europa League either. But 13 assists is nothing to be shy about. That is a fantastic little duty for him, especially when you're playing someone on the winger ability. He just seems to find Zapata at the back post or Berardi at the back post so regularly, and it's really helping us out that he's getting more involved in the goals. I think last year he wasn't really scoring too many, wasn't assisting majorly, so having him really give us something going forward is a big help. And even more importantly so, Zapata, 14 goals so far this season, 4 assists as well. He's just been absolutely phenomenal, like a revelation up front, having someone as strong, fast, can score goals from all sorts of angles and places, getting headers into the back of the net, just being on the end of crosses, which I think that Gary Hooper, bless him, was not really doing for us last year. So let's jump into the games that we actually did in fact play. Now, our first game of this episode was against Genoa. Now, obviously, there's not too many highlights. I'm just going to show you the goals so far. So here we go. We were actually very much on the attack here. Very in command. You see how many chances we had throughout the game. Could have easily won this game. Could have easily scored as many chances as we did. But unfortunately, we couldn't finish our dinner. And I think this is actually before I started playing more counter-attacking football and did the tactical changes I made initially, which is why we actually lost a couple of games before we started getting on the horn and winning them. But yeah, it was tough losing to a team like Genoa, who I don't think are very good. They're not really in the best place in the table, but a ball just through to Luca, and not the best of keeping from Fabianski. And it becomes a recurring theme with Fabianski that I'm not really happy with his goalkeeping. And I think after this game, it's why I left him out of a couple of matches as well. You can see the formation. Haven't changed the formation. Some of the personnel have changed slightly, but overall, pretty much kept it the same. The next game was against Juventus, which again we lost 1-0. This time, just because of the way they set up, and I've been having so much trouble, even for a long time, defending like wing-back formations that have 5 at the back. So I decided to pretty much counter the way they're playing and set up in a similar fashion, which I don't think it had the worst effect, but it didn't necessarily give us what we wanted going forward. Juventus, like you can see by the stats, it's a fairly even game overall. I wouldn't say anyone majorly dominated proceedings, but again, not the best of goalkeeping day outs from Fabianski. Now this game against the team that I cannot pronounce, we went back to the way we were playing, pretty much the same personnel. I think Nicholas Frey came in purely because Basta was actually out suspended in his games. Pretty bog standard stuff. I think the other team actually had a few decent chances. We started off here with Berardi, who hit the bar from a free kick. Duvan Zapata getting on the end of it, scored his 6th goal of the season. And overall, just by the stats, we managed to dominate the game. I don't think there was any chance that we shouldn't have really lost the game that we played in the first match up against them. I think anyone who was watching the stream just saw how annoying it was. We dominated the game, and for some reason, just ended up losing it. I'm not really sure what happened. The boys just didn't turn up. Zapata getting his 2nd of the game and his 7th of the season in this one. And just after half-time, that kind of set us up for a good position. We could obviously hold back and be a little bit more fruitful with our chances. But Duncan playing very well in the midfield for this game. Plays it over to Stefano Sensi, who's playing. Gets Politano in behind. Crosses it to Berardi at the back post. And that has been a very common link-up between all the games that we played. Next, we came up against Verona, which was a tough old game. I didn't think we were actually going to get anything out of this one. Overall, it was a scrappy game. Came in the last moments of the game. Duncan hits the shot. He then follows up with an absolute rocket after we've smashed down the door. Gets his goal and gets us the 3 points. Next, came up against Napoli, and you obviously remember last year we had a tough time against them in our first game of the season, but we managed to get our comeuppance in the second one where we beat them 2-0, I believe, in the end. And this time we went away to beat them 1-0 in the end. Again, I'd say it's a pretty even game overall. Napoli could have definitely got something out of it, but we defended very well overall. I don't think they have Insigne anymore. He wasn't playing up front for them in this game. And overall, we just controlled the game very well. We made most of our singular opportunity that was most fruitful. Politano and Berardi linking up again at the back post. Like I've said, it's a very common theme throughout this entire save so far. Club Brugge to play in the Europa League. In fact, I think it was this game that helped us seal the qualification for the second round, the knockout stages of the Europa League. And we played I don't want to say a weakened team, but we didn't play our best team. Pellegrini starts off with a deflected shot into the back of the net, which got us going after 25 minutes. You can see the stats overall in the game. We were just far and above better than them. I thought even in the first leg we were much better than them, but we didn't actually walk away with the win in the end. I thought we might have done, but they got a last-minute goal. Dufan Zapata with the Paolo Di Canio scissor kick volley gets us at 2-0. We then came up against Palermo, which was an interesting game for a few reasons, because it was when we were starting to get into the way that we were playing our formation with our counter-attacking, high-paced, high-direct strategy. Federico Ricci actually came into this one because I think I was trying to rest out Berardi in this game, but we got Duncan, Sensi, Magnanelli in the middle. Basta actually ended up getting an injury for 3 or 4 weeks. In fact, I believe that's how it went. So we obviously didn't have him available. We had to play Nicholas Frey, who's actually been a very good player. Obviously starting off proceedings here with the first goal in the game. He's been very solid, I have to say. I didn't think he was all that in a bag of chips last season. I think he let us down quite a few times, but he did very well in the times that we have brought him in throughout this game. He's been popping up with some clutch tackles, been really solid at the back. He's been less of a liability than he was last year, getting forward in the action when moving forward. We actually went 2-0 up in this game after a Sensi free kick. And then we actually ended up making it 3-0 as Duncan plays the ball to Nicholas Frey, who's going to get this assist here to Duvan Zapata at the front post. And that made it 3-0. And I was like, we're cruising here. Less than 20 minutes in. But you always know what happens when you go like 3-0 up within 20 minutes on Football Manager. They try and do you over. And that's exactly what almost happened here. We're into the second half at this point. So it's not the end of the world going and conceding a goal at this point. But Palermo did make us sweat. They hit us very quickly on the counter-attack. I think at this point I changed the tempo to normal. Hit the retained possession, made sure we mixed up the passing. I didn't want us to give away anything. I wanted to make the most of our possession, which I can't tell if it actually has benefited us or not in the second half. It's more something that I don't want to avoid us doing the same thing and getting caught out, and Palermo ended up beating us because I was too stubborn to change what we're doing. But we also brought on Christian Cannavaro, who's obviously a youth prospect. I wanted to give him some game time. Nicholas Frey, actually, just complimenting him, gives away the ball there, which starts this play late into the 80th minute before they actually go and score their second goal. Obviously, it's not the end of the world being in the 82nd minute. Not the best of defending. I'm still not convinced by Leandro Castan and Jezu Kanovic, who I thought were really good buys in the end. I thought they would be very solid, but they haven't proven to be the most electric of substitutions. Started out really well in the beginning of the season, but as we've got into this Christmas time period, there have been a lot of mistakes between the two of them. Castan, especially as of recent games, has not been amazing, I have to say. So, coming to this game against Roma, one of our biggest tests of the season. Obviously, we beat them in the second game of last season. They beat us in the first, and it was a very convincing game, 4-2 in the end. They didn't have Edin Dzeko up front. They were playing with Stefan El Shaarawy up front. But it would be us who would start things off here, moving forward. Politano, big ball over the top to Duvan Zapata, who runs through on goal. And it's actually a terrible slide tackle from Manolas, who not only takes out Zapata, but scores an own goal. So even if we hadn't scored that, it would have been a penalty. But I'm gonna let you know a secret right now. I don't think I've actually scored a penalty in this save so far. I've had quite a few come to us, and even though we've had people with like 14, 16, 18 penalties taking them, they've all been saved. And it's actually really annoying how weird penalties are in this game, that they're almost guaranteed not to go in. I've even put like people training in training, I've put them to practice their penalties and they still can't score penalties, but I don't know. But for those of you who've got this far into the actual video, wondering what the drink of the day is, can't believe I forgot until now. It is a Coors Light. Beautiful stuff. So, we're cruising at this point, 2-0 up in the game. Roma are still trying to get us, and because they're committing so many people forward, we've just literally hit counter-attacking, and that counter-attack works so well against the bigger teams who are obviously going to put loads of people forward, are very confident in their play, and we just punished them for it. Started playing quick counter-attacking football, very direct. Berardi gets this one on the end, slots it home. I believe we actually even had a penalty in this game that Berardi missed, so it was nice to see him score that one. 26 minutes in, but you know what that means. If you score in 3 goals in 26 minutes, Roma are going to get themselves something back. And we look very confident. We look like we were going to go on and get even a 4th or 5th goal, but some quick play from Roma ended up leading to a goal. That's actually Thorgan Hazard, just to let you know as well, before you think it's Eden Hazard. It's not. Stefan El Shaarawy just unleashes one against the bar. Not much Fabianski can do at that point in time, and he scores a goal. And I would say a couple games before this, I was actually putting Caballero in goal. I brought in Fabianski briefly. Again, not the most beautiful of goals that Roma are ever going to score, but they got another one back, and within the 80th minute, I put everyone back and in defensive mode, stuck everyone behind the ball I could, but wasn't enough. Perotti scored at the back post, and 3-0. We threw it away. I was not particularly happy. So next we came up against Empoli. I believe we had a game against Wolfsburg, and I really wanted to seal the first seed in our league. So I actually rested a lot of players in this one against Empoli, which ended up being 2-1. So you can I'll actually show you what the team was. So Larola came in, Swagger came in, we had Fabianski in goal, Lamas, who's the left back that I wasn't really that bothered about. He's just there to be a replacement if he's needed. Mazzatelli, Duncan, Pellegrini, Ricci, Falcinelli, and Giuseppe Rossi came in. Now, obviously, we played Giuseppe Rossi at the start of the season. He played really well. Opening game of the season. Debut, hat-trick for that man, including an assist. And then he got injured, and since then, every time I brought him on, he's not been fantastic. Zapata has been an absolute rock at the top. Falcinelli opening things up here, who was on loan last season. He comes on, and he plays pretty well, I have to say. I think he's a very good player to bring on. He has the legs. He's very good in front of goal. Very good crosses as well. Can play it around the team excellently. And for someone who's, obviously going to be sitting on the bench and comes on to fill in the space when we need him in games like this, he does a very good job. Empoli hit back 30 minutes into the game, and I was a little bit disheartened by that. I was like, that's very sloppy defending. But Giuseppe Rossi scored himself a beautiful free kick there to get us to 2-1 at 70 minutes in, and we managed to seal out the game from then on. So that brought us to our game against Wolfsburg in the Europa League, and we won that, securing our first place position in that little league. They came out with a very defensive 4-2-2 formation. They had two strikers, two wingers, and two very far back defensive midfielders. And although they had a lot of moments on the ball and going forward, they didn't really make the most of it, and it was us that would punish them in the end. Zapata and the rest of the boys linking up on that counter-attacking situation moving forward. Keep knocking it around, waiting for our opportunity. Duvan Zapata plays in Berardi the second time. Terrible goalkeeping from them, but we get the goal within 16 minutes. And we are scoring a lot of first half goals and very early on, which gives us a nice cushion to move forward in, but I also think in some cases is actually causing us a bit of harm because it gives the other team so much incentive to move forward, and it's almost like we can't actually defend for like 80, 70 minutes of the game. We then came up against AC Milan, again another massive game. 2-0, funnily enough. Zapata and Berardi providing us with the goals as we jump into this one. I was expecting a tough game because AC Milan, again, are still a very strong team. We had lots of very tough games at this period of the season, and we came up trumps in the end. We just did exactly what we needed to do. We scored the goals and defended very well, funnily enough. Berardi plays in Duvan Zapata on the quick counter-attacking. Like I said, it working out so well for us. It's not necessarily about the possession that we're holding. It's about having those opportunities and converting them. We're certainly converting them a lot more this season when it counts against the big teams. Now, I think Berardi, Politano and Zapata are the reasons we're keeping in a lot of the games so far. I have to say that I don't think our defence has been fantastic. It has had its moments, like against AC Milan in this game. They were very, very good. But overall, I don't think they're anything fantastic. I definitely want to start looking at getting some long-term replacements who are going to be far and above better. I think now we'll start getting a little bit more money, and instead of buying lots of players, we'll look to buy one or two players who are very good quality players, and we can see throughout the length of time. Now, this was a cup game against Cittadella that we won 2-1. That was a match that I rested a lot of players. I'll show you the formation as well. Nicholas Frey, Di Michaelis actually came in for his first game of the season. Swagger, Lamas, Mazzatelli, Pellegrini, and Sensi. That midfield trio, it tends to be the same because I haven't actually got that many options. I know I've got 5 midfielders, but I play with 3, so it's obviously a little bit of a stretch when it comes to that. I usually play them at the start, make sure we get a lead, and then sub them off later on. Ricci, Falcinelli, and Giuseppe Rossi, very similar to the game against Empoli that we played. So, it was, in fact, Cittadella who started off very well. Not the best of defending, not the best of goalkeeping from Willy Caballero. I brought him on, obviously, to replace Fabianski. Give him a break as well. But we dominated the game in the end, and the fruits of our labour paid off very shortly after, almost half an hour into the game. And a drilled effort comes to Pellegrini, who knocks it into the front post. I think Sensi and Pellegrini playing together. Playing Sensi with Duncan works out okay. Playing Pellegrini and Duncan together doesn't actually work out as well as I thought, which is I think why I dropped so many points early on in the season in some of the games. But when it comes to playing Pellegrini and Sensi together, they just work so much better. I'm not really sure why that is. I think they just cover each other's bases a lot better. Federico Ricci, who's a guy who has come on, I say okay, this season. He's not really assisted or scored goals. But when he comes on, he does okay. He's not really been electric for us. Not like last season where he was an extremely pivotal part of the team. Falcinelli coming up with another goal in this game. As I said, when he comes on, he does usually play very well. In fact, something I will tell you is that Federico Ricci has had some interest from a lot of clubs to get a transfer in for him. He also wants to leave the club because he's not playing very regularly on, and for some reason I promised I'd let him go, but I want to make sure I get a lot of money for him, and I kind of want to wait till the end of the season. He's still very young. Like, I want to hold on to him for this season just to make sure we've got the players to see us out and hopefully get Champions League football. Then I'll sell him on maybe in the summer where I've got time to replace him, but not only replace him, I can buy other players who are going to impact this next season a little bit more. Be a bit stronger in some of the other areas, maybe get a proper world-class striker. I think some people weren't too confident in the players I've got. And I had an offer of 15 million, which I rejected in the end. They actually came in with something like, I think it was like 8 million, and I said 15 million. They accepted it, plus some add-ons when it was like 2.5 million over 12 months. There was like a million odd for however many appearances he made. But I decided to reject it just because if I want to accept an offer in this transfer window, I want to make sure it's an absolutely amazing offer because he is still a very good player and very young. So it came against Bologna. I'm actually not going to bother showing you this game because, well, there were no goals, so it wasn't really worth showing you. But I'd say fairly even overall. Maybe we just about edged it out. Not much to really talk about there. It was pretty much the same. We played a little bit deeper. I think this is when I started playing my back line a bit deeper just to ensure that we aren't getting goals conceded against some of the bigger and faster teams. Now, we came against Atalanta. At this point in the season, we were neck and neck. I think we're both on 35 points or something like that. And I dropped the defence deeper. I played structured. Obviously, they are playing this 5 at the back formation with wing backs. As far as my tactics are concerned, I don't particularly remember exactly what I did, but Basta came back in. We played a very defensive line. I put them to defensive fullbacks. Magnanelli came in, who I thought was a bit more defensively orientated, better on the ball. Sensi came in, Duncan, Berardi, Politano, and Zapata. Very similar, but it was just all about counter-attacking play. It was about holding a structured line, making sure that we dropped deep so that the pace of this team didn't come in. Because you look at it, it's like Spinazzola, okay player, not fantastic going forward. He can cross a little bit. He's just pace is unreal. Victor Abarbo, 16 pace, very lightning, not the best technically. And then you go to some of the rest of their players like DeMarco, just very fast, not technically the most amazing of players, I would say. Probably better than some of my fullbacks. He's got a lot of potential still to grow into, but he's not quite there. Again, just a lot of pace around the board. I wouldn't say they were technically amazing. I don't really know why they are in the position they are. They've got some good players, but I wouldn't say they're second in the league kind of material, especially when you look at their centre-backs. I don't think they're particularly great. They're like okay. 3-star player. Got another 3-star player. We've got Caldera, who's, again, not an amazing player, but a lot of potential to grow. And Berisha, who's not a great keeper either. In general, like in a year or two's time, I could see them being at the top of the table, you know, like really pushing for that. But I feel like they are peaking very early. I don't know if that's just Football Manager doing its thing, but overall, I would say that they don't necessarily deserve to be where they are. You look at the stats here, and you would say, wow, they absolutely battered you. I think probably a draw here was pretty fair, but what you don't know is it got to 2-0 to us first of all, and it was pretty much even. We dominated the first half very much. You look at the possession, very even across the board. It's just the fact that when it came to like the 70th minute, I just stuck everyone behind the ball. Duvan Zapata, with an absolute rocket, puts that one past Berisha in the end, and it was just a very odd game because we obviously scored. We came into the second half at 1-0. I was like, you know, playing well. Don't let it slip up. They weren't really having much in that first half. Second half comes up, and we're still going forward at them. We're still very much in control, and there's not much Atalanta are doing at this point. Ahead, Duncan gets it, plays Politano, who's completely unmarked. He pulls it back to Zapata, who scores his second of the game. At that point, I'm like, all right, we're cruising. We're all good. I left the instructions as they were. I left it on counter, Left it on high tempo, left it on direct football, even though I desperately wanted to, draw it back a bit, make sure we're controlling the ball. And it got to like just before the 70th minute, and Atalanta are having a few more chances here and there, and I'm a little bit worried about what's going on. I feel like we've definitely got the capability to see this one out, but Kevin Lasagna has a half opportunity. I don't know why he's been given that room, or how Caballero, who I've completely forgot to take out at this point in time, by the way, after the game against Cittadella in the Cup, completely forgot to sub him out, and he's still in goal, and he made 2 horrendous attempts at saves. He had some okay moments, but they're not amazing goals, and he let those in literally the 90th minute we conceded there, which would have definitely put us in such a good position. And I feel like in those games, when you do beat a team like that, they start to crumble, absolutely crumble, and I think that might have happened to Atalanta, but we let them get away with it. We then came up against Sampdoria, which again was a pretty similar situation. You see the team were playing there, Duncan at defensive mid, Pellegrini Sensi bringing out that midfield. We started off very brightly again. Sampdoria didn't really have much. We went up 2-0 in the game. It was very good going forward. Less than 3 minutes into the matchup itself, they start to push forward. Not the best of football from them. Here's where we hit people on the counter-attack. Quick play out to Politano. He goes to the line, draws it back to Zapata. High leg, gets it in the back post, and he scores his 14th goal of the season. And then we go on to score a second one. Pretty much the same kind of situation. 25 minutes in, the ball comes out to Pellegrini. We're still keeping up the pressure. And overall in the game, we probably had the best of it. Falls to Berardi at the back post. Zapata gets the nod on from Politano's cross. And we're 2-0 up. And we're cruising. I'm thinking nothing's going to stop us now. We're absolutely smashing it. But again, not the case. Sampdoria, who have been a bit of a pain for us so far in this series, do make us pay. As they move forward here, it's Sheik who was the absolute catalyst going forward. They really didn't, honestly, they really didn't create a lot. It was this 1 or 2 opportunity that they got. Sheik plays it back. They go to the wing. No one really marking him up, and Sheik scores a header at the back post. Again, I forgot to take Caballero out and bring Fabianski in. Bit of a bobbly game here and there. I'm not really sure what happened in this midfield. They just kind of gave up in the end. Stopped playing properly. First time cross randomly to Sheik. Kastan and Zukanovic not really doing anything about that, and they get a goal back very quickly, which I was not happy about. Now the transfer window is obviously open. I haven't made too many attempts at getting people. So we had Yamello, who's going to go out on loan. I think I'm waiting for that one to be confirmed. Karim Laribi is actually out of contract at the end of this year. I obviously don't want to get him, but this Turkish team are going to get him on a free. Emmanuel Swagger, multiple times people have been trying to get him out on loan, but I want to keep him because obviously I let Di Michaelis actually go out on loan, if you can see here, for 100% of his wages, which is a big load off of my mind. Obviously, he's taking up like 50,000 a week just to sit on the bench, and I'm only getting 5,000 a month for his services, whether he plays or not. This isn't terrible. If he's going to sit on the bench, not really the end of the world, but it does give me the chance to maybe bring in someone else in place of him who's probably a little bit cheaper. Ricci wants to force a move. Here's the one I was talking about. I almost managed to get him away for like 15 million in the end, but I decided to cancel it. Actually looking at possible fullback replacements, Andrea Costa, who's a guy who can play centre-back and left-back. I think very technically gifted, mentally very good. His physicals are also very good, although apparently his scout rating is not fantastic. Very cheap as well. I think I'm getting it for 300 despite being valued at only 50k. His wages are a little bit expensive, but it does fill the role of having a potentially better left back, but someone who could also play centre back if they were needed for that role. So kind of fills out 2 spaces with 1 stone. We're also looking at Lukasz Piszczek, who I believe is out of contract at the end of this year, and it was brought to my attention by the scouts, and he's still a fantastic player. I mean, like, you look at his stats overall, they're not amazing or anything to shout home about, but he played for Dortmund such a long time that he's obviously going to be very good at what he does. He can also play pretty well at left back if he's needed there. Now, overall in the squad, if we just run through it very quickly, I'm not going to really sit and talk about every single player and how they're getting on. You can obviously look at them all individually. I don't think we've made too much progress as far as some of the midfielders go, who have obviously got room to grow into. Alfred Duncan still far and away is our best player, but apparently is declining, which worries me. I'm actually going to criticize his training level, and he accepts that correctly. Since he's actually got an injury here, dislocated jaw, still not going up in his current ability despite progressing pretty much in every area of his game. Pellegrini, one of our best prospects so far, 4 stars, still the potential to reach 5-star. Domenico Berardi, again, still not really growing as far as the overall ability is concerned, but still expected to get to 4.5-star at one point. Matteo Politano should be reaching that 4-star ability, but you look at his stats, he's fantastic, and the assists he's been providing this season have been amazing. Obviously, hasn't been scoring. I think next season my major aim is to strengthen the defense, but by people who are going to be there for a few seasons rather than someone who's maybe going to be there for a year or two before they're replaced. We're actually going to accept this bid for Piszczek that we've put in, make sure that we adjust the budget. And he is now. So because we made a few loan deals where they'll be paying their wages, it freed up so much budget for us to actually bring in a player. I think we had about 2 million to spend in the end. I don't want to go too crazy with the signings at this point in time, purely because what will it take to get you European champions? You're right, it's a little bit. I should show some faith in our youngsters. Give some faith. I can't afford to waste time. Yeah, I can't wait as long as that. I'm not going to argue about this. I'm not. Oh, that's just gone terribly. Like, why? I hate those players who've got to cause a fuss. Duncan's been trying to force a move. He was like, oh, I want to go to Man City as well. It's coming, mate. Those youngsters, they want out. I don't know why. We're in 3rd position right now. We're closing in on Champions League. Why would you want to leave? Wait till the end of the season to cause a fuss. Palermo want Mazzatelli on loan. I want to keep him, but he has gone down to a potential 3.5-star player, which is my only annoyance, is that because he's not really made much progress, and because I didn't loan him out, he's not really got anywhere. I'm going to reject the offer just because I need to make sure we've got midfielders. It's my own fault that not playing him enough, but it's just like when you've got to play to win, it's hard to really. Okay, this guy wants to talk about. Let's just say something like that. Now, I'm a little bit strapped for time today, so I'm just going to get one game in. And what I'm going to actually do is I am going to play on key highlights. I don't like normally doing it purely because I am not a fan of playing where I can't really see how the game progresses. It's something I say to a lot of people is I don't really know how people can play on key highlights because you can never really be sure what's actually happening in the game itself. But just for you boys, I'm going to trudge through that problem itself. So this is an Italian Cup game. It's not the end of the world if we lose it. Obviously, it's against Inter Milan. To beat them today would be really big for us because it at least shows us that when we do go and play them later on in the season itself, it gives us a very good chance to beat them. Now they have swapped to this. 15 minutes gone, and we've got a highlight. Now on key, it pretty much means that a highlight is almost a goal, or it's an extremely close opportunity. Peluso's already picked himself up a booking, so I'm going to tell him to calm down. And they are playing very wide, and it looks like they're probably going to score here, as these highlights generally end up going. Canare on the left-hand side. Basta with a massive challenge there. I'm actually going to put them to fairly wide as well, just to ensure we are marking up those wingers. Corner, 20 minutes in, the ball comes in and it's headed down. Berardi follows it up. What's he going to do with it? Gives it to Zukanovic. Duncan now. Is he going to go for the... We've actually had the majority of our opportunities here. Let's actually... I'm going to drop the tempo and I'm going to drop the passing a little bit, just to see if we can get a bit more control on our actual ball play. Because you cannot afford to give up possession too easily against teams like Inter Milan. It worked out for us early on in the game, but as far as the rest of this, it's not been the best of opportunities. Here we go. Pellegrini's got it. What's he looking to do with it? Is that... Politano drags it back to his man. ZAPATA! Yes! ZAPATA scored! ZAPATA scored!